Final speaker, Chris Baugh from PCS. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Linda. Comrades, brothers and sisters, the chance to say a few words, to follow what I think a number of inspirational speakers, Geraint, I think Martin Kavanagh set out many of the problems, certainly from a PCS perspective. Cameron, again inspirational, the United Voices, again emphasising the point that militant action can actually deliver results, and we're going to need it against those, as we all know, everyone accepts it's a crisis, and we all know when it's a political and constitutional crisis, who it is they attempt to make pay for it. And that's going to be the crucial message that's got to come from this conference. In the limited time available to me, let me just say, I mean, my union took a position, inform and decide. We didn't come down one side or the other in the referendum debate. I know where I stand personally, and I think it may not be the most scientific explanation, but I was up in Blackpool 2 or 3 weeks ago talking to some old friends and comrades, a good old Northern Soul comrade of mine, and we were just discussing the implications of the referendum, and we were chatting away, and I said, so what attitude do you take? And he said, well, Remain. He went, why would I want to remain in this shithole? He said, have the politicians been to Blackpool recently? You know, they've even stolen our club. Now, I don't mean that to sum up as the most scientific analysis, but what that shows is that there's a deep antagonism that was expressed in the mass votes expressed by working class voters to leave. And it has thrown the ruling class into absolute disarray. A couple of little quotes. There was a series of reports in the Financial Times, and again, this Gillian Tett, one of the writers, was saying that all the Wall Street investors, international investors, cannot fathom what on earth the British capitalist class was doing. To have even allowed a referendum and to have allowed themselves into this situation that now jeopardises profits on an international scale. There was a discussion on Radio 4, I heard, of a Swiss banker saying, well, for those people who think that when Britain and the ruling class negotiate new trade arrangements, I'd just like to point out, and people say that Switzerland may be a model, he said, I'd just like to point out we have 125 separate trade agreements. Before anybody gets too carried away, I should point out it took us 45 years to negotiate them. So my point being, you see the visceral attacks of Heseltine, of Major, against other sections of the Tory party. And this is a government and a ruling elite in absolute crisis. Now, whilst I take the view that the Leave vote represents a hostility, a deep alienation from the political process by the working class, I think we also have to recognise and face up to the fact that the debate which was hijacked by the right wing, the way in which immigration was pumped out, the way in which racist sentiment was played on, is a warning to the British working class and a warning to the Labour movement. And I mean, the relentless propaganda of the media, but again, in just summarising, there's not the time to address this. The Labour movement have got to organise to tackle racism on the streets and in the workplace, but as Oktay and other people said, the most effective way is to tackle the social conditions upon which the racists feed, the poverty and deprivation that the UKIPs and the racists in our society feed upon. And that's why it comes back to us not just saying what we're against, but what we stand for. And it comes back to this question, the attack on Corbyn. Again, I think others have made it absolutely clear. It's a bit like it was in the early 80s. The SDP was created not because they thought a left-wing Labour programme might be unelectable, precisely the opposite. They were terrified that a left-wing programme could actually be elected. And the Blairites are terrified of the implications of a general election with Corbyn as the leader of the Labour Party running, as Dave Nellis said, on a left-wing programme, that it's entirely electable. It's to stop that happening that these people have made their move at this particular time. Now, PCS, we're not affiliated, and I have to make the point, I don't accept the idea that the only way you can support as a trade union is to affiliate to the Labour Party. My union, we saw more privatisations under Blair and Brown than Thatcher and Major put together. Brown targeted PCS, 100,000 job cuts. Our conference takes the view that we should support the politicians that support us. And we've worked for many, many years very closely with John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn. And in their hour of need, PCS, like other unions, will stand up to do everything in their power to support them. And I just want to finish now on this particular point. Again, I don't accept the idea. I mean, Matt, again, plays a very important role. I don't want to, create the wrong view about this. Matt Rack has been at the head of all the calls for action around the trade union bill. I mean, the struggle of the FBU is an inspiration. But I think Matt is wrong when he says a conference, we've somehow misjudged the situation. A conference is a marvellous opportunity, and it should be called by the trade union movement to bring together all of those unions, those that are affiliated, those that aren't affiliated, to not just discuss how we best support Jeremy and John McDonnell in this life and death struggle, but to do what we needed to do before the Leave result. It's just as important now, but to also discuss how we harness the massive sense of grievance that exists amongst organised workers and the millions of workers who now need to be brought into the ranks of the trade union movement to deliver the coordinated industrial action that will show the massive latent power that can force a general election, that can force the Tories out and give us the opportunity of fighting for genuine socialist policies. Thanks for listening.